Dave Zasetsky and Josh Clark. You're watching Detroit on Deck. Here are your hosts, Dave Zasetsky and Josh Clark. You're watching Detroit on Deck. Here are your hosts, Dave Zasetsky and Josh Clark. You're watching Detroit on Deck. Here are your hosts, Dave Zasetsky and Josh Clark. You're watching Detroit on Deck. Here are your hosts, Dave Zasetsky and Josh Clark. You're watching Detroit on Deck. Here are your hosts, Dave Zasetsky and Josh Clark. You're watching Detroit on Deck. Here are your hosts, Dave Zasetsky and Josh Clark.
What's up, Clarky? We're live here right now on YouTube. Got the link on Facebook as well. It's not episode 13. It's Lions pregame special here. Dave Zasetsky, Josh Clark, as always, Detroit on Deck. If you're new to the show, hey, thanks for watching. If you're not, we appreciate your support. Big game today, Josh. Big game today. Thought I might be saying the Lions have a real easy shot to the Super Bowl, in my opinion, if the Packers won. I don't want to say easy, but the path would have gotten a lot easier. We'll say that much. But Jordan Love choked in the end. So the Niners win. The Niners win and didn't even play well. Yeah, McCaffrey had a long touchdown run, but outside of that, didn't do too much. Had a little bit of injury he was dealing with, Josh. But before we get to the Lions talk here, you know, you root for the Packers one time in your life and they can't come through, huh?
I mean, I wasn't really rooting for the Packers. Like, I kind of knew what the outcome was going to be. I'm not surprised the game was as close as it was, just because of the week off the Niners had.
Yeah,
that's kind of one thing. If you're a Detroit fan, you didn't want that to happen, because a lot of people don't realize that if they don't get screwed out of that game in Dallas, they were the number one seed based on how the season ended for all those teams that were on top.
Yeah,
it would have been the number one seed. So we're talking potentially a divisional round loss yesterday if they were rusty and stuff, the way that San Francisco looked rusty yesterday. So, you know, in that terms, it's nice that they, you know, didn't have that bye and were able to continue, you know, chugging along and keeping the momentum on their side.
Yeah, you know, but hey, they were close. I think Green Bay's got something to look forward to with Jordan Love in the future, those young receivers, and we'll see what happens with their running backs. But let's get to the big news today. Lions getting set here in a little bit to about 45 minutes or so to play with the Bucs. And, you know, I'm looking forward to this one. It's exciting. It's going to be loud. We already know that. I am disappointed we're not going to see James Houston. He was reported inactive today. Actually, he practiced all week. So it's kind of disappointing. You'd hope you'd see him in there. The rest of the inactives, a couple guys that you would expect to be in there, and then Khalif Raymond, who, you know, his knee is pretty bad, so I don't know that we'll see him in the playoffs, even if they win.
I got a list of their inactives. I got a
Yeah.
list of their inactives right here.
Yep.
There's a couple big ones on here. You know, obviously the James Houston news is, you know, probably the biggest, but you look at someone like Tracy Walker as well. That's a depth piece in the secondary, which, you know, their secondary is not all that great anyway. So that's a huge loss right there, in my opinion, as well. Broderick Martin on the DL. Hendon Hooker is inactive, but he's listed as the emergency quarterback.
Right.
So there's a chance that, you know, if Goff goes down or something, that he could step in. Then you have Charles Harris and Stephen Gilmore.
Yeah, which
as well as Raymond, which you mentioned.
Charles Harris, I don't know what his deal, but he was really ineffective when he was in anyways. But, you know, you're hoping to see some more help on that defensive line. Obviously for Aiden, that would have been big for him. But he's going to have to be causing havoc because his team is better than they were last time Detroit faced them. Let's be honest, right? But at the same time, The Lions are better. They're more
Detroit is as well, right?
Right. I mean, we're more healthy. So you look at the run game. I think that's going to be huge today. I mean, you're indoor, so obviously weather's not an impact, but you got to get that run game continuously going here because eventually you're going to be impacted by some weather. And that's just a beautiful thing about the playoffs. You keep moving, you're going to get all the elements, right? I mean, you think about it. Wouldn't mind it being in California if that's the case, or actually it would be if the Lions win. Yeah, that's going to be in San Francisco.
They go to San Francisco.
So
and then
still,
the Super Bowl's in Vegas, so they're not going to see any inclement weather.
That'd be nice, right? Really, like in terms of the for the Lions on the NFC side, they lucked out because I mean, look at the Chiefs, what they're having to go through.
Yeah, with the Eagles kind of tanking at the end of the year, they fell from the 2 to the 5 seed, so they didn't have to go outdoors. They're potentially in a divisional round matchup. Dallas is indoors, in a nicer weather. San Francisco is nicer weather. Lambeau Field is they were a lower seed, so you don't have to really pay attention to the elements, of the Midwest or the East Coast teams.
Right. Yeah, that's big. I mean, so let's look at some of the matchups here, Josh, with corners and with the receivers on the other side. Listen, we've talked about it before. Some of the fill-ins for Detroit have struggled. In the last few weeks, we've given up a lot of yards, and I'm talking a lot. Started with Justin Jefferson. Obviously, Jefferson, hey, he's a stud, right? He's in the top 2 conversation, every year that he plays. He's amazing. We gave up a lot. I think the kind of the strategy there was, listen, Nick Mullins not going to really kill you, so let him do his and don't let anybody else do anything else. I think that's got to be the same thing here. If I'm looking at their best receiver, and in my opinion still, I think it's Mike Evans. So I think Mike Evans, I know that you said you think
I think Chris Godwin.
Chris Godwin could
right now,
and I don't see it. The numbers don't back that up. But maybe
he's healthier. I say it in this regards against the Lions. Overall, Mike Evans probably is a better player, but in terms of the matchup versus the Lions, I feel it's Chris Godwin because of the way he plays football. He loves the middle of the field, and that's where the Lions struggle. They
have, but they've also got their safeties healthy again, so that's got to help something. I mean, it's got to help, but and obviously they've just kind of abandoned Rodriguez. I don't know what's going on there. I really, truly don't. That's one of the most puzzling things for the Lions. You wish you could be a fly on the wall and figure out what happened.
Had a stud season last year, and then all of a sudden he just falls off the face of the earth, like out of favor with the coaching staff or something. But I don't understand it. Like he was an absolute stud last year.
And now they use him at like tight end and stuff. Like
tight fullback, special teams. Like I don't
weird.
think he's seen maybe 20 snaps all season on defense.
Yeah, it's been a little puzzling there, but maybe they think he's undersized. I don't know. But anyways, Anzalone's there. He mans the middle quite a bit. And those other backs, they bring in Campbell as well. I think Campbell's done pretty good. I mean, he was an outstanding linebacker out of Iowa. What do? They eat corn and they play defense, right? So they definitely don't play offense except
and
Sam Laporta. Yeah, exactly. You took the words out of my mouth. That's it. If Detroit's going to get the victory today, I think they got to keep playing the same ball that they've been playing. Really just don't go off script, because running the ball effectively, which they have been doing, I'd like to see Jahmyr Gibbs get a little bit more involved. I know they tried to do that last week, and then Montgomery was just he was just picking up yards, so they went that route. But got to see Gibbs getting the ball.
They really try to get him involved.
I thought they did.
The ball 12 times this week.
Well, but he didn't get a lot going on. If Detroit's going to win, he's obviously got to get 20 touches. I mean,
you give me 7 touches. Like, it's not, you know what I mean? Like, it takes a minute to get going. Like, you got to be able to feel the defense out and all this other stuff. You can't just be like, okay, you got 12 yards. You got 12 yards and 7 carries. Like, we're not going to play the rest of the game.
I mean, you got to go with what the defense gives you sometimes, though. And I think with the looks that they had, it wasn't there. I think also if Laporta is healthier, he's probably going to get more room as well. That helps. I think a week later, Laporta a little bit healthier. I think we're going to see him a little bit more involved in the game as well. He was more effective when we got down to the red zone.
Like moving forward for me, like they're going to see a lot of pressure if they run into the Ravens or the Bills, who have stud defenses, and Niners next week potentially if they win today. They have stud defense. There's going to be pressure on Goff. How do you do that? Get the ball out of your hands quick. Put Jameer Gibbs in open field, running back screens, and let him do what he does. David Montgomery can't do that. Like, moving forward, you have to get him involved starting now if you want to be able to say, hey, we have a legit chance to win the NFC and a potential Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that one, and I agree with you. I do believe that there needs to be more of an emphasis of getting Gibbs involved. I agree with you. But when you look at what this team does well, Vita Vea in the middle, he's a big dude down there, and he's disruptive. So like that line's got to be strong, which they have been all season long. But I just feel like in terms of defensive speed, Tampa's just at a different level right now when they were when we last seen them. We saw them play Philly. I mean, say what you want about Jalen Hurts. He did not have a lot of time. He had a safety in that game. Jalen Hurts doesn't happen.
Even starting today, then, like, Jalen Hurts didn't have a lot of time. He's a lot faster than what Jared Goff is. How do you counter that? You get the ball out of your hands to your playmakers really quick, whether it be Amon-Ra St. Brown on a quick wide receiver screen, whether it be Sam Laporta across the middle on a 5-yard diagonal route, or whether it be Jameer Gibbs out of the back. You got to get the ball out of your hands to your playmakers. David Montgomery is not a playmaker. He's a between the tackles a runner who's going to get you the 3, 4, 5, 6 dirty yards. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
Jameer Gibbs is a home run hitter. So because of that, you have to get him involved. Like, there's no reason this dude should not see at least 20 touches a week now moving forward between today, next week, and the potential Super Bowl matchup.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, looking at this defense too, Josh, versus the Rams. I mean, the Rams, obviously you start with Aaron Donald, right? They have some younger guys on the edge, but there's a lot more names on this team. Some of the names are, when Tom was there, when he won a couple championships. Shaq Barrett is active today. They've got Levante David, they got Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean. KJ Britt's been playing good football out of Auburn.
Yeah, just Super Bowl experience everywhere, playoff experience.
They really do.
For the defense. So
now,
Devin White,
you got William Golston, former Michigan State Spartan, right?
Golston, yeah. So, I mean, they're loaded up, but yeah, I personally just think that the difference in this game is if the Lions want to win, it's going to be that defensive line. Aiden Hudson has to wreak havoc just to help his secondary out, because you can't have Vildor out there on an island against Mike Evans or Chris Godwin.
No,
you can't have a potential Chase Lucas out there on an island against Chris Godwin or Mike Evans. This game's going to be a blowout in the other direction.
Correct. Yeah, I mean you can't.
So to me, it has to come down to Aiden Hudson and the amount of pressure that he can put on Baker Mayfield. Sam Laporta across the middle, make that 5-yard, give them diagonal.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's obviously there's a bigger challenge than people are thinking, in my opinion, because they think, this is going to be a cakewalk. But Baker Mayfield, like you said, he's also been playing his best football right now. I mean, he played mistake-free football versus Philly. I know Philly's
this is probably his best football since his Oklahoma days.
I say, yeah, probably there. Maybe when Cleveland, the one year that he had was Stefanski, was pretty darn good. But he's got more.
Great run game and defense, though, is what they had there in Cleveland. Like, Baker made a couple throws here and there, but
Baker's numbers were pretty dang good, though. Baker's made. Right. I mean, I would say, in my opinion, I think that was his best football. But I think this team is his most talented that he's had, and I don't think it's close.
No,
I mean,
100%.
Mike Evans, should be falling off a bit, and I haven't seen that. I have seen the occasional drop, and he did it against Philly as well, so he will do that.
Sure, thought that for sure that was a touchdown.
Oh, I mean, it easily could have been, and that score would have been even uglier, right?
Hit him right in the hands.
Right. So, and it was a great pass. So, yeah. In terms of the Lions here in this test, it's going to be a big one. I do believe that Detroit wins this ball game. I don't think it's going to be as close as it was with the Rams. I think that they can win this by 14. I truly believe that. But I don't see Detroit scoring more than 30 points. And I think I think you could hold. I think you could hold. It could be somewhere around 33-17. I do believe it could be like that. I don't know that Tampa's offense scares me that much. There's weapons, but what has Baker Mayfield's problem been over his career? Even though he's playing his best football, he's just been inconsistent. I don't know, man, and I think it's going to hurt them the fact that they can't run the ball worth of crap. I mean, Rachaad White's good in the pass game, but he can't do anything in the run game.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, and the Lions are one of the best at stopping the run, anyways. So it's
Correct.
That plays a favor to them, anyways. But yeah, I'm kind of with you in terms of the final score. I think I got it a little bit closer, but I'm right around that 28-17, 28-20 mark.
Yeah.
But I do think it has potential to get ugly.
Yeah. Which would be good for Detroit.
100% would be good for sure. But yeah, I just think being at home, Ford Field, the electricity there, fans been, earning for this moment for 30 plus years. Now you have a second playoff game in the same exact season. I just don't see a way that the Lions let the fans down or the city of Detroit down. And, I think, a lot of that motivation and a lot of that energy is going to come off of, the noise level and the fans at Ford Field.
Agreed. And one thing I will say too, Josh, that I would like to see from Dan Campbell is taking the points when you got a chance, kicking the field goal.
You're at that time of the year now. You have to. We've talked about this before on past podcasts, but you're at that point of the year now where points matter. Like it doesn't matter, if it's a field goal and you're up 3-0 early on. Those 3 points are going to come back and bite you in the butt at some point. Now that you're getting into the nitty gritty of the season and tougher teams, you're potentially looking at. Over your next 2 games, if they were to beat San Francisco next year and the AFC winner in Kansas City, Buffalo, or Baltimore, you're looking at potentially back-to-back games that are against top 5 offenses, top 7 offenses when it comes to the conference championship and the Super Bowl matchup.
See, that's
you got to take points when you give.
I agree 100% because the thing is you're going to run into a problem here where if you don't take those points, it's going to come back and bite you. Now, it hasn't really gotten him too much yet, but you just take points. Winning coaches take points. And Dan Campbell, I believe it was 3 years to the day that he was brought in here with Detroit. Maybe last.
This is his 3rd year, yep.
Yeah, to the day. And it's like when he came in, it was kind of like Sirianni's press conference. I don't know if you remember that, but he said a lot of weird things, and you're like, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, a little puzzling.
At first you're hesitant, then you're like, okay, I like his energy.
Yeah, I like his energy.
I understand where he's going. It's got a Detroit feel to it.
Right.
All of a sudden they start 0-10-1, and then you're like, oh crap, here we go again.
Yeah, I mean, really, and then they took a miraculous turn.
That walk-off touchdown against Minnesota just kind of clicked for them, and they finished the season on a high note. I think they finished 3-13-1 that year, so they went 500 over the last 6 games that year. Then obviously they were over 500 last year at 9-8, and then again this year at 12-5. So it's definitely taking a turn since that Minnesota walk-off a few years ago.
And that the thing is it's gonna be. I mean, look for guys to come here. You know what I mean? I truly believe that guys will come here. They'll want to come here. They want to play for Dan Campbell.
Amon-Ra St. Brown's already recruiting. There was
Ramsey last year.
Yeah, no, this year as well. He put something else out again. He's like, "Hey, I see you're a free agent." He's like, Detroit would love you.
So that was I saw he put that out last year, and then that's when there was people laughing at him, saying he'll never go there. So
no, just after the Rams game though, I believe he kind of said it again, even though I know Ramsey's with the Dolphins now. But
yeah, I mean, I don't think he'll come here, but and I don't know that I want a guy like that personally because of.
Yeah, no, I think
you know what I mean.
His career, anyways, but a big name like that, I get what you're saying.
It would help.
A big name, like that, would definitely be, phenomenal. Granted, we don't really need a safety. If we can get Tracy Walker to stay healthy, re-sign C.J. Gardner-Johnson, I think we're pretty set there.
It would help. I think the thing is if you can bring in a big name. It's got to be a guy that's still got something left. And like you said, a guy like Ramsey, it's one of those players that he's got a lot of pride. He's had a heck of a career. But I'm not paying him big time money at this point. It's got to
I
be,
think I don't know what his situation's like contract wise, but I think somebody that would fit the Detroit style, the narrative about grit,
of
and
course,
determination. Harrison Smith would be a phenomenal pickup here. I feel like
Harrison Smith, yeah, in the twilight of his career, but like had a heck of a career.
He's still a baller though.
No, he's good, and he's a hard hitter.
Yeah.
He'll make you think twice about going over the middle, which I think Detroit needs, right? Like I like that. I think if you go that route, you realize Gardner Johnson's walking, and maybe that's okay, because you're probably not bringing both of those guys in here. They play the same position.
Well, either that or Tracy Walker is gone. You switch.
Well, I think they're done with him anyways, man. It's too bad, but like when he had that injury, it really did a number on him, and he has never been back. And I don't know if they don't have the confidence in him or he literally just isn't back.
Right.
Who knows what he looks like next year? He's a high possibility for a cut. And listen, let's be honest here, man. We got a receiver here that if we bring in somebody that can, whether it's Jameson Williams or you're going to need somebody else that comes in next year, because I don't think it's Josh Reynolds. I mean, I love Josh Reynolds and what he's done and the story, because he kind of gets lost with Jared Goff, but he did some great things. But I think you'll have to bring in somebody else next year, and who knows if they can bring in a big name. What kind of a step can Jameson Williams take if there's even less attention on him and he can just go over the top, work on that with Jared Goff in the offseason? I think you're learning from one of the top route runners in Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I'd like to see him take a step, but you got to bring in another weapon on offense at receiver. In my opinion, it's just not Josh Reynolds. Thoughts?
No, I mean, Josh Reynolds is exactly what he is right now. He's a good number 3. He's a good number 3. I mean, Jameson Williams just needs to, stay off the gambling websites and stay on the football field and actually focus on the game. If he can do that, I think he has great potential to be, I don't want to say a T. Higgins, but he has potential to be like maybe just a step under as number 2. As a number 2.
You say T. Higgins, man. Wouldn't that be the perfect name to bring in here? Because he's a free agent.
Yeah.
That would be huge.
But that's kind of the same thing that I see, with Jameson Williams as, because you think of T. Higgins coming out of, I believe, Clemson. Like, what was he? He was a wide receiver that stretched the field for them. The same way that Jameson Williams did at Alabama.
See, I see him more of like a Sammy Watkins. He's not a rough guy. He's not physical.
Even Sammy Watkins coming up, though, what was he best at? Like, he was
going over the top.
He was a hell of a deep ball threat.
Right, but that's what I'm saying.
And that's all we need from JMO. We need JMO. Well, we need the coaching staff to realize the talent that they have in Jameson Williams first and foremost.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think Jameson Williams, his ceiling is like Devontae Smith. I think he could be like that too. Like, he's an undersized guy. He's got a lot of speed, but man, Devontae Smith is a good receiver. I love Devontae Smith.
100%. But JMO's not going to grow here until the coaching staff realize the talent and the potential that he has.
Agreed.
With his speed of 4.3, 4.4, 4.5, like, there's no reason with that type of speed that you should not be sending him on a vertical route, double moves, whatever the case may be.
Oh, these little 5-yard routes. That's useless.
At least 3 to 4 times a game.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't get it, especially against San Francisco next week. You're going to have to surprise them with some things. You know what I mean?
You're going to have to. I mean,
because the Nick Bosa and Chase Young is going to live in Jared Goff's head all game.
Oh, I mean, look at the running. Look at the linebackers.
And then you got Greenlaw and Warner, right? Like, coming up the middle on. So they're gonna have to pull something. They're gonna have to pull something out, to get JMO, to get Gibbs, the speedsters and their playmakers, which those two are more involved, especially when it comes to the San Francisco game next week, which I expect them to advance today to play them in the conference championship.
I do. And then then you're in the conversation of just one win away from getting to the Super Bowl. You give yourself a chance. Like we've said it in the NFL, whether it be on a Thursday, Saturday, or Monday, or whatever it is, the saying goes is any given Sunday, right? Anything can happen out on that field. You give yourself a chance. They can give themselves a chance to go to the Super Bowl. All you got to do is play your best game of the year. That's what you got to do. So you can do that.
And then even then, I mean, the only team at that point that really kind of scares me would be the Ravens in the sense that the Ravens
Oh, they're
dominated them
nasty.
earlier in the year. So I mean, I would more or less like the Chiefs or the Bills in that regard, just because they can run the ball on those guys.
I
and
think
they
I
can
would rather
control.
have the Bills because I think remember when a couple of years ago when they were making that change, that turn to getting better. I think it was last year actually. They
Yeah,
played the
last year
Bills in
the Bills came
Thanksgiving.
to Detroit. Yep.
They should have won that, but we missed a
Yeah.
field goal and
Yeah,
all
and
this stuff. And
it went to overtime, didn't it, or
it,
something like that?
I,
Or the
s-
Bills won.
I think
Bills
they
won the
won in
last second.
overtime last second
The
field goal.
last second, something like that. Yeah,
Yep.
28-25.
But we had missed opportunities. I mean, we could have won that game, should have won that game. We're a better team now. I think we could beat the Bills. I do. Listen, you said it too, though. Patrick Mahomes, he's a special guy in the playoffs, man. He is. So, yeah, that's a little scary. But I remember what the Bucks did to him a couple years ago, and they
Yeah, no,
made him disappear.
No, 100%. Yeah, and then again, it comes back to that defensive line just getting the pressure on the quarterback. So that's where it
That
comes
was
back
it.
to That's where it comes back to Hutchinson being the most valuable guy on the field when it comes.
And then
to
you think
today,
Houston
or
being healthy for
or
that
the
game.
Niners next week, and when hopefully James
Yep.
Houston will be back.
Yep.
So you kind of get the double pressure, and you can't really double team Hutch at that point then. But no, that's where if I'm an NFC team though, the Niners or the Lions or the potential Bucks, whoever wins today's game,
Yeah.
that's where I'm rooting for the Bills to get out of the AFC.
Yeah.
I personally think that if it's the Chiefs or if it's the Ravens, I feel like those two teams will be the Super Bowl champs.
Yeah, I mean those two teams scare me, and obviously, with it coming out too that this is possibly Andy Reid's last year, those rumors came out, and what does he have to prove, right? He's just having fun at this point, but Philly's just stupid for getting rid of him ever, in my opinion.
What a hell of a job to walk into as the next head coach.
God. Well, you think like, do they go with what is it, Spags at defensive coordinator because he's done it before with the Giants? I don't know.
Personally, and I hate to say this, I think that could be the one job that gets Ben Johnson out of Detroit.
I mean, I think Ben Johnson, it feels like he'll be gone next year. So it could be the one.
Based on interviews that I've been seeing, it feels like Aaron Glenn's going to be the more possible coordinator gone.
Which,
I'm okay with.
At that point, take him. I mean, that defense is...
Like, he's interviewed for like 3 head coaching jobs so far, I believe. I know he's interviewed with the Titans and the...
But here's the thing.
The Falcons.
Josh, people won't say it. I'm going to say it. The NFL's got to figure out something because I feel like a lot of guys with this Rooney Rule are just getting interviews so we took care of the Rooney Rule and now we're going to go hire this guy.
Yeah.
Like if you're not really interested in somebody, don't waste their time, man. Like I think that
and the Rooney Rule to me, like I understand it. I'm all about equality and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Korean, Asian, whatever the case may be. It comes down to talent and knowing the X's and O's.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's what it should be.
So to me, like I understand the Rooney Rule, but at the end of the day, I think, like you said, it's just wasting time, especially if some of these guys, where Aaron Glenn being one of these guys that we've been talking about is not a potential great head coach. I think he's just getting these interviews because of the said Rooney Rule. Like,
right.
Don't get me wrong. Mike Tomlin, stud of a coach. I would take him any day of the week. Lovie Smith, stud of a coach. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there are coaches out there that are phenomenal, but at the end of the day, they also know football. They know the X's and O's, where some of these other guys don't.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Glenn has got to figure out this defense before he can figure out taking over a team. I mean, I just don't see it, but we'll see, man. Speaking of great coaches, Jim Harbaugh was on the sidelines in Baltimore there, and
talking up my boy Peyton Manning.
Yeah, with his son too, and. It just feels like it's going to happen. He's getting a second interview with Atlanta. So how weird is this, though? How do you interview Bill Belichick twice and then don't give him the job? Because that's what it looks like. And like I'm actually amazed by that because if I'm Atlanta, I'm going Belichick all day. But they might go the Harbaugh route, and I think that's the last thing standing in the way for Michigan. Okay, will he go to Atlanta or is he coming back? Because he's not going to the Raiders, right? AP
He's
took
not-
that job.
It doesn't look like he's going to the Chargers either,
Right.
Based on things I've been reading, but I think Atlanta is the perfect fit for him, honestly. Especially if he
Yeah.
wants to build from the ground up. Who's coming out into the draft this year?
JJ.
His former quarterback.
Got
What does
Drake
Atlanta
London
desperately-
there and
Right,
Kyle
what
Pitts.
does Atlanta desperately need? A quarterback. So
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh there coaching McCarthy, who he's familiar with. He knows the style of play that works for him. Which not everybody does. When it comes to rookie coming out. So I think that would be a match made in
But
heaven. He has
Clark-
He has home talent there. He has talent there in London, like you said. Pitts there. Van Jefferson's a nice deep threat there. He's got some stud running backs and Tyler Algier and B. John Robinson.
That's what I'm saying, man. He's got everything.
The defense isn't honestly that bad, and the South is weak. So
Yeah.
it's a match made in heaven to at least get to the playoffs, and that's all you want at the end of the year is to have a chance, and be one of the final 14 teams.
They got players, man. It's like they got players. Atlanta's a great place to be. Like they love their team there, especially when they're winning. They fill that up. The only
And
bad
they got a stud safety there too, and Jesse Bates, who came over from the Bengals. So
Jesse Bates
they
can
got-
ball.
So they got talent on both sides of the ball. It's just it comes down to coaching, and Arthur Smith just wasn't it.
Yeah, Ritter. I mean, you can't win with Ritter or Tyler Heineke. I mean, I don't mind Tyler Heineke, but as a third quarterback, maybe backup type of guy. Desmond Ritter.
Emergency type quarterback.
Yeah. Desmond
Blaine
Ritter
Gabbert.
just ain't it.
Blaine Gabbert, Chase Daniels type, who can come in, win you a ball game here and there, which he proved he can do, in Washington with the Commanders.
So I knew Desmond Ritter wasn't going to be I wasn't going to probably be a successful NFL quarterback when I saw him play Georgia in the playoff.
Against Cincinnati, with Cincinnati.
He just they just completely shut him down, and really that's what he's been in the NFL. He's just not anything special, and the signings that they've made there at quarterback over the last couple of years, just.
I mean, Ritter to me is, and no offense, I love this dude, but he's Marcus Mariota 2.0.
Well, and that's the last guy they signed before that, right? That's what I'm saying. It doesn't move the needle anymore. Marcus Mariota, when he came out, he was awesome, man. He had,
Oregon.
but something went wrong, and he's not the same guy. And let's be honest. I mean, he's getting a little slower, and that was really his thing, right? He didn't have a cannon of an arm. It was more dink and dunks, short passes and stuff, and didn't hurt. Yeah, it didn't hurt that he had with AJ Brown there too, didn't he? Was he there with 1 year with him? I believe with Tennessee, or was he that before?
Yeah, I don't.
That may have been
there
before.
for a year, but
Yeah.
it might have been right before. But yeah,
That's amazing that they
Yeah,
had
but-
him there.
yeah. But either way, Jim Harbaugh. Yeah, I personally feel the writing's on the wall. I'd be shocked to see him with a block him on his hat next year.
Yeah, I mean, he's done everything he needs to. You can't be upset at him. If you're a Michigan fan, right? He got you natty, so he did his job.
Now the question is who's the front runner for the head coach at Michigan?
I think
Harbaugh
it's
does leave.
I think it's more.
Sure, I think Sherrod Moore should.
Now
get the
Jesse
job.
Minter though has been. It's hard to say no to him too.
But the reason I'm asking this question is because I did see a report that stated a certain name could potentially get the job if Harbaugh does jump to the NFL, and I am not a big fan.
Oh, Brian Kelly, it better not be.
Brian Kelly.
Nah. I don't want him. I'll take anybody but him. I'd take Rod Marinelli over Brian Kelly. I don't want him.
No,
No.
I 100% agree. So
He's like a used